Okay. So we're going to talk about some terms today. And if you don't understand the term, you can't answer the question, right? So I need you to really grasp what each of these things are. And if you aren't certain what it is, ask, okay? Because I want to make sure it's crystal clear so that you can find these things you need to find. Does anyone know what the word adjacent means? What? Forgot? That's okay.
There's something in common.
There is something in common. You're reading well. Adjacent. Max, turn your stuff back on. Right now. No, it is not. You're offline.
Oh, it's on.
No, it's not. It was on 2 minutes ago. Now it's off. Turn it on. So if I said, okay, here you go. Dakota is adjacent to Candace. What does that mean? Max, seriously, if you're going to make me ride this the whole day, I'm going to be super annoyed. Notability, not Safari. Notability. Take your notes. I know, maybe that's what we need. I don't want to play that game. Do I have to be that teacher that locks you into something? You can't be responsible. You're juniors. I believe you can be responsible. I'll do it. You're going to make me do it? Then knock it off and take notes. All right. Anyway, this is a terrible video. 2 minutes of me waiting for you to hear me. If I say Dakota is adjacent to Cadence, next to, okay? So when you hear the word adjacent, I want you to think next to, okay? Those are angles that are next to each other. So two coplanar angles, they are going to have a common, that's a good word for math, but they're going to have a common side to them. They're going to have a common vertex and no common interior points. Okay, so I'm going to show you some examples of what are adjacent angles and what are not adjacent angles. So if you're wanting to draw with me, I highly recommend it. If we draw an angle and then you kind of just draw a ray in between, I would say right now that angle 1, okay, so this angle here, and angle 2, this angle here, are adjacent angles. Okay, here's why. Is this flickering? I keep seeing a flash. They share a common side. Okay, so here's their common side is right here. Okay, common side. They have a common vertex being the point that they meet at, right? But then they have no other points in common. Those are the only points that they have in common. Forrest, what are you doing? No, you don't even have notes to take because your notability is not working. Just put it away. So it looks like this, okay? Now, those are adjacent angles. These, okay, 1 and 2 here, no, N-O, no common interior points. Okay, these two angles, those are not adjacent. Do you know why?
They're not even the same.
They don't share a side or a vertex, right? So you have to share a side and a vertex, but then you also have to not have anything else in common. So let me show you one other example of what is not adjacent, because this is the one that gets confused the most. Let's say I have this angle, okay, angle A, B, C, and then I have this angle. So angle ABC and angle DBC are not adjacent. Can you see why?
Because DBC is inside of ABC.
Right. That means they share all of these points, right? DBC is here. ABC is here. If there is anything that overlaps other than the ray, it's wrong, okay? So because all of this is overlapping, they are not adjacent. Does that make sense? So this would be adjacent, right? Angle 1 and angle 2 as two separate angles. But the big angle, this angle here, with a smaller one, those are not. So they cannot have overlap other than that ray. Are we good on that? Yes? No?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay, what'd you say?
I get it.
You get it, great. Okay, then there's vertical angles, and I'm gonna draw you a picture. Vertical angles have to have, remember opposite rays? What are opposite rays?
They go on forever.
They go on forever in opposite directions, right? So if one goes this way, the other goes this way, okay? Who's out there?
Kids.
Of course.
I wasn't gonna say it until you.
Oh, that is, no,
Is it your friend?
I thought it was. I don't think it is. It looked like Eric Vanderzee, but I don't think it is.
It's an opposite race, so it's like two friends are talking in the class.
Who said that?
I watched a video because I had to get one opposite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could think of it that way. So an opposite ray would be like this one with this one, right? They go in perfectly opposite directions. So vertical angles are formed when you have opposite rays here and opposite rays here. So angle 1 and angle 2 are opposite rays. Okay. What do you suppose that means about angle 3 and angle 4? Oh gosh, I said that wrong. Not opposite rays, you guys. They're vertical angles. Sorry. You do too. Vertical angles. The rays are opposite rays, yes, right? The like purple and the pink. What colors would you call those? This angle with 2, angle 1 and angle 2, those are vertical angles, okay? Angle 3 and angle 4 are also vertical angles. Okay? You should be writing this down right now. No, you're not. You're messing with Truett. Questions on that? Okay, so let me give you a picture. Which angles here are vertical angles? 5 and 2, and 1 and 3. Okay? That's it. Vertical angles. So it's like they're across from each other. Remember, adjacent is next to each other. Vertical is across from each other. Okay? Okay. Have you seen these before? Complementary and supplementary? I feel like if there were terms in this lesson that you know, it would be these two.
What's the difference between next to each other and across from each other?
So if you have this setup, right? If this is 5, 6, 7, and 8,
Yeah.
I would say 5 and 6 are next to each other. They share a ray, right? I would say 5 and 7 are across from each other.
Okay, I see.
Does that make sense?
Or 8 and 6 are obviously vertical.
8 and 6 are vertical angles. They're across from each other.
But if 6 and 7 didn't exist, would 8 and 5 be like across from each other? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
That would be, actually, we're going to learn about that in a little bit. A linear pair, 5 and 8, they make a straight line. We'll get there. But, yeah. Okay. Complementary, supplementary. These are probably two terms you've heard before. It's probably been a little while. Does anyone remember what they are without just reading it?
It's like when two angles combine, it's like 90.
Is which one? Complementary or supplementary?
I think complement.
Okay, so here's how I tell you to remember it. Complementary angles are going to add up to 90 degrees. God bless you. Supplementary angles are going to add up to 180. If you have trouble remembering which one is which, okay, do this. Complementary in the alphabet comes before supplementary, right? C comes before S. 90 comes before 180. So C goes with 90, S goes with 180. So if you go alphabetical and numerical order, you should be able to keep them together, okay? Complementary 90, supplementary 180.
It has to be 90 together.
It has to be 90 together.
So like 40 and 50.
Yes. So I'll show you a couple pictures, okay? Because there's a couple ways this can happen. Sometimes they'll give you an angle with the little box here. What does the little box mean? 90. It's a right angle, okay? So if there's another ray in here, so that this one was 40 and this one was 50, those are complementary angles, okay? They're also one of the other types of angles we talked about. Are they adjacent or vertical? 40 and 50 here. Adjacent. They're next to each other, right? They share this purpley ray. Okay, so these are adjacent complementary angles. They're next to each other, but they do add up to 90. So sometimes they'll look like that. Other times they'll look like this. Let's say this is 30 and this is 60. Okay, notice they're not touching each other, but what do they add up to? 90. So they're still complementary angles. So these ones we would say are adjacent complementary. Okay, these ones are just complementary.
It doesn't always have to end in 0, so it can be like 75 and 15.
Yep, you could do, well, 75 and 15 doesn't work, but it could be like, yes. Oh, wait, 90. Yes, yeah. Sorry. You're right. Sorry, guys. I told you I didn't sleep well last night. Yes, 75 and 15 would work. Or 72 and 18, right? It can be any two numbers that add up to 90.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's think about that. If those are complementary, then supplementary to add up to 180 could look like this.
Could 90 and 90 be supplementary?
Yes. So let's say this is 60 and 120.
And then 80.
Okay. Two angles that add up to 180, right? 60 plus 120 is 180. So these are actually adjacent supplementary because they are next to each other. Okay. You don't necessarily need to write that down, but if you want to write that down, adjacent supplementary angles. But they don't have to be adjacent to be supplementary. So I could just do, let's say this is 50 degrees. What would this one have to be supplementary?
130.
130. Okay, notice they're not touching, but they are supplementary. Okay, so they're not adjacent supplementary, they're just supplementary angles. Okay, quick recap. Somebody explain to me, not in the words there, what adjacent angles are. Forrest.
Like two angles that are next to each other?
Two angles that are next to each other, but have nothing else in common but their ray, right? Their side and their vertex, okay? Adjacent. Somebody else tell me what vertical angles are. Across from each other. Two angles that are across from each other. They'll have opposite rays, but they'll be across, not next to, right? Somebody tell me what complementary angles are.
They add to 90.
How many angles? Two angles that add up to 90. And supplementary? Two angles that add up to 180. Good on those?
Yes.
Okay. So let's take a look at this. You have this picture, and it asks you, are BFD, so maybe you want to highlight BFD. We love to highlight, right? Okay, our BFD and CFD, so CFD, okay, are they adjacent? And maybe it makes more sense to you to highlight this way, right? Here's BFD, here's CFD.
Holding and then half of it?
Yeah, are they adjacent?
No,
No.
Why not?
because it's like, because,
Yeah.
There's
they're.
overlap, right?
Oh, yeah.
Overlap?
Oh, that's what, I was.
Right? This right here is what makes them not adjacent because they do share array, they share FD, right? But then they share beyond that.
So
They
what are
cannot
they?
overlap. They don't have a name.
It's just there.
It's just, are they adjacent? The answer is no, they're not adjacent. You can say they overlap. That would be a good reason that they're not adjacent. Okay, I am going to erase that so that I can show you the next thing. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So this next one says our AFB. So AFB is here. Okay. And EFD
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they are.
are they vertical?
No,
They
Nuh-uh.
aren't.
Nope,
How?
wrong.
Tell me why, Forrest.
Because they're not like opposite race.
Right. So this one's opposite, right? This makes a straight line. But if I take that FB and I extend it straight the other way, it would have to go here. You see that? So that makes them not vertical angles, rather, because they are not opposite rays. Okay, so then here's my question. Do you see any vertical angles?
Yes. E, F, right, it can't be, EFD and AFC.
EFD and AFC. Yeah, that would work. So this angle here, right? This is an opposite this way. This is an opposite this way. So this angle with this angle, or go the other way, this angle with that angle,
Or,
right?
wait, he might have said the same thing, but I'm saying in a different order, but AFC and EFD?
Yes, yep, that's right. Okay, last thing, our AFE, so here's AFE, and BFC, the question is, are they complementary?
Yes.
Why?
I don't know. Wait,
They have a
yeah,
sum
yeah,
of
no.
90.
They have a sum of 90, right? So if we can go 62 plus 28 and it equals 90, that means the answer is yes. Those are complementary. Okay? All right.
I'm so tired this already.
Last thing. So this part of it is all about like assumption. Okay? What are you allowed to say? Yep, I know that's true, even if they don't tell us that it's true. Hey, stay with me. So here it is. Okay, there's 3 things that they can tell you without being marked. Okay, no markings. They don't have to put the little arcs. They don't have to put the little hash marks. We just know that they're true. One of those is adjacent angles. So I can look at this picture and I can say which 2 angles are adjacent.
3 and 5? No.
Those would be vertical, right?
1 and 2,
1 and 2 are adjacent because they share this ray and only this ray.
5 and 4.
5 and 4 are adjacent. So I could say angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent. Ooh, that's interesting. So 1 and 2, I could also say 2 and what?
2 and 3.
2 and 3. So any that are next to each other, right? 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 5, and 5 and 1. Okay? So 4 and 5, and 5 and 1. Okay? Those are all adjacent angles. Notice they didn't tell us they were adjacent. We can just assume they're adjacent. Okay? Okay, second thing is we don't have to be told that things are adjacent supplementary. This one's a little tougher to find. What does it mean to be adjacent? Next to. What does it mean to be supplementary?
Then that's equal 90.
Supplementary.
180.
180. Okay? So next to each other,
3 and 4.
forming a straight line would be 3 and 4. Right? Here's the straight line, 3 and 4. So we're going to say 3 and 4 are adjacent supplementary. Okay? And there's one more adjacent supplementary.
4 and 5. I'm like
4 and 5.
I'm so good. I should be in
Okay? 4 and 5. Also adjacent supplementary, right? They form a straight line. They're touching with this ray in the middle. So 3 and 4. Oops, we're going highlighter here. You know what those little marks mean? Those are ditto lines. Just means we're like this is just being resaid over and over and over again. Yes? Okay. The little marks, these little marks, that just means we're repeating the words above it. Call them dittos. Okay, the last thing, vertical angles. You are allowed to say that angles are vertical angles just by looking at them. Do you see vertical angles in this picture?
3, 5. No.
3 and 5.
Dang it.
Okay, if we extend the 3, right, those are opposite rays for both of them. So this angle is a vertical angle with that angle. They're across from each other, right, with opposite rays. So we would say angle 3 and angle 5 are vertical angles.
So it's just a bunch of like the complementary.
Complementary?
Yeah.
Like what you're doing today is a bunch of the terminology stuff. Yes, complementary, supplementary, adjacent, vertical. Those are your main points that you'll be working with. Okay? Okay. We're going to stop there.